Hey guys, it's Caleb with White Metal Games here with another terrain tutorial for you for mini wargaming. So this terrain tutorial is going to help you create some classic looking Tyranid terrain for a meager price of give or take about $10, give or take, with some Chthonian flair to it. So you got to configure the Tyranid Codex, and if you're a Tyranid player, you've already become very, very familiar with it. GW puts out a lot of terrain. They put out a lot of very good terrain, I'll point out. But most of it's Imperial terrain, and even other companies like Gale Force 9 that does Battlefield in a Box, even they have sort of a limit on what they do for alien terrain or Xenos terrain. They have some Eldar stuff out there, a few Necron pieces, but notably there's almost no Tyranid terrain out there. So if you're going to do a Tyranid board for yourself, you're going to have to build it yourself, and you're going to have to come up with alternatives to your basic terrain. Now the Tyranid Codex is filled with all sorts of iconic photos and pictures, and in most of them you see these massive sort of Chthonian spires sort of reaching up into the stars like these here. Usually they're sort of these tall, jagged, almost skyscrapers made out of chitin and bone. And some of the artwork is very, very dark and hard to see, but if you look closely at some of these iconic images, like for example, I'm trying to show you a good one. Like here's a good one. This shows a space battle, and it has all of these living bioships swooping around space, and it's got all of these long appendages and tentacles and that sort of thing. Very, very hard to duplicate from a model point of view when you're a terrain builder. Now, some people like Terrainaholic and those sorts of guys that thrive on building terrain are really good at it, and they're going to build it out of stuff like, you know, styrofoam and plastic styrene and you know, thin card and that sort of stuff, and they're going to work on it for a long time. You know, one simple thing is you can build capillary towers out of foam, but that all has a very simple look to it. It all looks very it looks very much like the Forge World terrain, where it's just these huge capillaries bursting out of the ground, and that's cool. It looks good, but if you want to mix it up a little bit and you don't have access to foam or access to a hot foam cutter or that sort of thing, your options are a little more limited. So here's what I'm going to suggest you do. Go on eBay, and you're going to find this thing called a Snake Alien. It was made by Kenner in the 80s. It was released shortly after the Aliens movie came out, directed by James Cameron. And they wanted to expand on the action figure line, so they introduced all these different toys like the Queen and a Flying Queen and a snake and a crab and, you know, all this different stuff. Most of them you can pick up for pretty cheap. Even with shipping, you can probably get a Snake Alien by Kenner for probably about $10 to $11, so less than the price of, let's say, a Citadel Hill or a Citadel Wood or that sort of thing. And if you look around long enough, usually you can find a lot of these, and you can get 2 or 3 in a lot. So this is what it looks like when you actually buy it. This is the actual toy itself. As you can see, it's pretty long. It actually is about, give or take, about 12 inches long. And if I'll put it up here at the camera, as you can see, it's like this massive cobra alien of sorts. It's got, you know, this sort of hooded membrane here. It's got this mouth. It's got this head. It's got this long tail. You know, and it's a cool looking figure. One of the nicer features is the tail has a long thread of wire going through it, so you can bend it, you can shape it, you can restyle it, that sort of thing. So that's kind of a fun feature. So what I'm going to do with it is, first off, I'm going to take this thing off of eBay after I buy it, take it, and I'm going to break the head off. Now, I've already done that, so I'm just going to show you. There we go. Head's broken off. The head will come off with a simple set of pliers or a simple set of heavy-duty wire cutters. These are a Gale Force 9 heavy-duty clipper, which I really like for cutting through just about anything. They're $20, but they're the best $20 you'll ever spend on clippers. They last forever. Anyway, so first off, remove the head from this guy. Pop, it's gone. Next thing you're going to do, take your hand drill. If you have a drill at home, this is great. If you don't, borrow your dad's or borrow a neighbor's. This is a cordless driver drill. This is about 18 volts, so it's got a good deal of torque to it. The bit I'm using is a 1 16th inch bit, and I use that because I use 16th inch brass rod for most of my converting work. I use it for things like, if I'm going to pin a model together, if it's resin or metal, I usually use 1/16th inch rod. It's just a general good hobby rod. There's smaller rods for smaller models and thicker rods for thicker models, but as a rule of thumb, it's easy to cut, easy to clip, easy to drill. First thing you're going to do is drill a hole in your model in the neck right up here. Now, I've already drilled it just to go ahead and show you that, but drill it in there. Second off, take a piece of 1/16th inch rod and sink it in there. Now, use a set of pliers to really push it down in there. You want it to have a good grip in there. You don't want it to go slipping around. If you drill about an inch up, give or take, maybe about a half an inch up into this, to the point where my blade is pointing to right about now, that's about how far you want to go, give or take about an inch up. Once you drill that in there and get that rod supplanted in there, you're halfway done. Now, if you model on a regular basis, you probably have a bunch of MDF or thin plywood laying around. Cut your MDF or plywood into a simple roundish shape. It doesn't have to be very big. This one is give or take about 5 by 4 inches. It's oblong. It's been sanded and beveled on the sides. And by beveled, I just mean slanted. So it actually doesn't stand up as much. So take this out of thin MDF or something like plywood, that sort of thing. Cut out a shape, sand it down, bevel the edges, boom, you're done. As you can probably figure, you're going to take this, you're going to insert it into this. Drill a hole in here using your 1/16th inch, should fit perfectly. Stick it in. Okay, so now it's attached to the base. Once you have that on there, there's going to be some excess rod. Clip that off. If you have any left over, sand it down just a little bit. If you have a sander, like a Dremel, it's a great way to do it. It only takes a second. Be sure to use eye protection when you do this, because you can get sand dust and that sort of thing in your eyes. So there we go. Nice and smooth. Not going anywhere. And you're going to set that down on your table. And that's the basics for it. I mean, that's pretty much it, the way it stands right there. Now, I've got one over here I've already glued down just to show you. So this one has actually already been glued down. The glue is actually drying a little bit already. And it stands, give or take, about, you're talking about a 12-inch, 14-inch piece of terrain, so it's going to be really nice and tall on the table. Down here at the bottom, I attached glue. Now, I overglue a little bit for this sort of stuff because I really want to sink it down in there. And glue is cheap by comparison to other things, so I used a little bit of a river of glue there, a little bit too much. I don't recommend using that much. I got a little overzealous. Anyway, glue it down. Now, once it's attached to the base, all I recommend doing for this sort of thing is there's a couple things you can do. One is you can go ahead and paint it, prime it up, paint it up any color you want. Now, they do paint these already, so it comes in kind of a brownish, greenish color. So you could, in theory, just throw some grit down, some gravel, some sand, whatever, throw a little flock on the base and call it a day. You'd be done. You'd have a little alien piece of terrain for your tabletop right there like that. Alternately, you can throw a little grit down and then prime this bad boy up and paint it in the same color scheme as your army. If you play Kraken, or if you play Leviathan, or if you play any of those high fleets, or you have your own unique color scheme, paint it up to look like that. So there's an option for you. Side by side, you can see we got 2 of these now. I bought both of these on eBay for less than $15 total for both of them. Just shop around, be willing to wait a little bit. I think they're going to look really snazzy on the gaming table. I think they're going to be a really interesting, unique piece of terrain. They could work in an Imperial table where it looks like the Tyranids are slowly taking over the world, and these things are bursting out of the ground. Or it could work on an alien terrain table. This could be the start of a much larger set of terrain. You can certainly do it for less than about $10 if you look around willing to shop. So that's it. I will probably do an update video for these once they're painted up so people can see how they looked all fully painted. I'm still working on my Tyranid paint scheme, so because of that I haven't painted them yet. But once I get them painted, I'll throw up another vid. But that's it. Alien terrain with a Chthonian flair for your Tyranid army or Tyranid table for less than about $10. Easy, quick, simple. This stuff is very durable, and because they bend, you can actually reshape this a little bit. You can make it look a little twisty, a little curvy, not straight and hard like most Imperial terrain. This is a little more alien-esque. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. And certainly, any piece of terrain you can add to your gaming table is always a good one. Until next time.